Welcome back to the Rebuilt Parish podcast. I am so excited that you tuned into this episode today because it is a great one. We are talking about leadership, and I can't think of someone who gets more excited about leadership than our very own David Makala. David is our Chief Operating Officer at Rebuilt. He coaches multiple parishes and has been coaching church leaders for years. When it comes to leadership and personal development, it is something that David's not only passionate about, but he emulates as well. I can't wait for you to hear the different resources he's got to share when he shares about the books he loves, the evaluations he uses. Don't worry, we've got them all for you in the show notes. And stick around so you can get the link for our very own leadership evaluation. Hey there, David. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today.
Well, hello, Melissa. It's so great to be here today. I'm excited to talk about one of my favorite subjects and topics. It is leadership.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's exactly why we had you here. And I have to say, when we were planning out the leadership episodes, we knew that we wanted you to come and talk about leadership because we know it is a gifting of yours and a massive passion of yours.
Well, it is, Melissa, and I can say that, we've all had good leaders and not so good leaders. And for the last 20 years, I've been fortunate to be around some really good leaders. And, one of my favorite sayings is that everything rises and falls on leadership. And, today, hopefully I can add some value and talk about some of the things that I've learned from the leaders that I've worked with, the leaders that I've studied. And, there's just a lot of great information that I hope that the audience today will see adds value to their life and their leadership.
Amazing. I know that they will all have so much to learn from you. And don't worry, everybody. David's got a lot of things to reference. We're going to put those in the show notes for you, too. So you're not going to miss a thing. So, David, today we're talking all about an effective and cohesive leadership team. Could you please share with us what are some of those effective characteristics or traits of an effective leadership team?
Maria, this is a really great first question because it's going to lay the foundation for today's conversation. And before I give you the key characteristics of an effective leadership team, I want to define what is a leadership team. So first, when you look at the word team, it's been so overused and misused in organizations, and that it's lost so much of its impact. And really, the truth is that very few groups of leaders actually work like a team. And I love what Patrick Lencioni, how he defines a leadership team in his book, The Advantage. He defines a leadership team as a small group of people who are collectively responsible for achieving a common objective for their organization or for your parish. So think about this, a common objective. It can only be achieved if the leadership team is aligned to a clear and compelling vision. So at Rebuilt, our leadership team, we review our vision, mission, and strategic plan on a weekly basis. And it helps us create clarity and alignment. So I encourage, parishes to, get into that rhythm of having your leadership team look at your vision, mission on a regular basis so that you create clarity and alignment. So, one of the key questions that a lot of leaders ask is, well, what's the ideal number of people on the leadership team? It's usually 4 to 6. And the reason that's 4 to 6 is because it creates a good collaboration, and then also it creates an environment where people have an opportunity to speak and no one's really left out. So that's really, the team aspect of it. But really, let me go into what that first step in making a leadership team effective is to be cohesive. And to be effective, and any parish or an organization must be led by a leadership team that is unified and aligned, as I just mentioned. So think about this. It's kind of like a family. If the parents' relationship is dysfunctional, guess what? The family is going to be dysfunctional. Same as a team. If the team is dysfunctional or the people are dysfunctional, then it brings that dysfunction into the team. It's not to say that good things can't come out of it, but it's just that the leadership team, when it's dysfunctional, won't come close to realizing its full potential. So a cohesive leadership team will be an effective leadership team. So let me go into now those characteristics, the key characteristics of building an effective leadership team. And again, this is something that we practice at Rebuild and we coach our parishes to do, is really based on Patrick Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions of a team. So there's those 5 dysfunctions that really, when you look at them and you evaluate how well are we doing here, you look at the first one is, are the members of the team trusting? Do they trust one another? So that's the first characteristic, high trust. Number 2 is, do the team members regularly engage in productive, unfiltered conflict around important issues? That's number 2. Number 3, are members of the teams committed to the vision and the mission of their organization and to each other? That's key. It's important to be committed to the mission and vision, but also to each other, right? And that creates that unity. Then number 4, team members hold one another accountable to commitments and behaviors. And number 5, the team is focused on achieving individual and collective results. At Rebuild, we have prioritized building a healthy culture with a cohesive leadership team that is effective.
That is so good. And again, we're going to have, we'll put all of these books that David is referencing in the show notes, so that way you can dive into any of those that sound like that might be what your team needs. Well, David, now that we know what those characteristics are, can you walk us through how you go about recruiting and selecting the right people to be on that leadership team?
Oh, that's the right question, is how do you get the right people on the leadership team? So in Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, he introduces the concept of getting the right people on the bus and in the right seat to emphasize the importance of having the right team in place for the parish's success. So let me explain the concept. Many of you parish leaders have heard of this before. We talk about this quite a bit, but really the bus metaphor is this. The bus represents the bus represents your parish. It's the organization and the company as a whole. The driver represents the leader or the leadership team, and the right people refers to the team members who are a good fit for your parish. And then getting the right people on the bus are those team members, are those people who share the core values and the vision or the organization. So getting the right people in the right seats refers to the positions where individuals and team members, they can really leverage and utilize their strengths and add value to the parish. So it's not just about having talented people, but it's about ensuring they are in the right roles, in the right seats, in the right position where they can be most effective. So Melissa, when it comes to recruiting staff members and volunteers, we're always looking for good people to join our team. In business, there's a saying for sales, ABC, always be closing. I like to say for ministry leaders, ABCs is we always be connecting. We're always connecting with people.
Okay.
We're always looking to connect with people that, we see potential in them. And one of my favorite sayings, I see something in you. Tap people on the shoulder and say, I see something in you. I see God moving in your life. And here's an opportunity. We'd love for you to be part of our team. So let me give you some practical steps of how to recruit people, how to tap people on the shoulder. The first thing is we start with a one-page job description. We want to know what are the roles, what are the open positions that we're wanting to fill. So that job description, there's a lot of different ways to create a job description. We keep a simple one-page job description, and it includes this. What's the primary responsibility? And then there's the list of responsibilities and expectations. And then finally, we like to have a small list of what are the must-haves for this position and what are the nice-to-haves. And these are related to the skills. And so the next step in recruiting people, we use this format of looking at the 5 C's. When we're talking with someone, we look at what are the 5 C's. Can they check the box in all of these areas. So the 5 C's are competency. Does the person have the needed experience and expertise for the position? Character. Do they have strong Christ-like character that aligns to our values? And then chemistry. Do they get along well with people? Melissa, chemistry is one of the intangibles that you can't, it's hard to define, but you just know. When you've been around people, you just know, man, there's just this synchronicity and we're just connecting. And that's one of the ones that I look for, because if you are working with a team and there's not chemistry, it just is hard. So chemistry is number 3. And then 4 is commitment. Are they committed to the vision and mission of Rebuild? And are they committed to grow themselves as a leader and a follower of Christ? And then culture. Are they a culture fit? And are they able to work in a culture like for Rebuild? We are a fast-paced culture with a lot of changes. So we look for people that are really adaptable and are able to roll with the changes. So
our parish leaders can do the same thing. And I'll tell you, I wish I had realized that a 1-page job description is more effective than a 3 to 4 page job description, because that's what I was writing in the past at the parish. And when I saw how simple yet effective a 1-page job description can be, that was a game changer, because then there's clarity, simplicity, but also I love that must-have list and nice-to-have list. That helps with the recruiting process so much. Now that we have recruited this team, talk to us about how you create a culture of collaboration and accountability with the team.
Okay, great. Well, this is another favorite part of mine, and being on a leadership team and leading teams is the first step in creating that culture of collaboration and accountability within the team is to have effective meetings. Yes. Now, Melissa, we have a lot of meetings at Rebuild, and I know parish leaders, you probably have a lot of meetings too. And there's just a debate on, do I like meetings or do I don't like meetings? I think we can all say that we don't like meetings that aren't run well. But I think we can say that we love meetings that are run extremely well, that are effective. So an effective meeting really starts with a leader who creates an agenda ahead of time with specific objectives and outcomes for the meeting. And also the meeting has a person who is dedicated to taking notes, a scribe. You can even use AI to do that as well. There's some great tools out there that we've used. And then also you want to be able to write down, coming out of the meeting, what are the decisions that were made, what are the action steps, the timelines, and who's going to do them. This creates accountability within the team. So that's number 1, to have an effective meeting. Number 2, this is a key, and this goes back to one of the key characteristics of an effective team, is there needs to be trust among the team. That's the foundation, trust, so that people feel comfortable and confident to share their ideas. So that's the next step. Another step is to create a framework for the meeting to keep the team focused and engaged. And one of the tools that we use for collaboration is the Working Genius by Patrick Lencioni. It's a great framework to move meetings forward in a productive and efficient way. And some of you leaders, I know you've used it, and I won't go into the details of it. I'm sure Melissa will put some links in the notes today. But really, there's 3 phases of the Working Genius. There's the ideation phase. It's the phase where it involves generating new ideas and possibilities. It's where creativity and innovation takes center stage. So that's the first phase. The second phase is activation. That activation phase is where the focus shifts from generating ideas to initiating action. It's about planning and preparing to move forward. And the third phase is implementation. And this is the phase where ideas and plans are brought to fruition. It's about executing and completing the work. Now, every person on your team has one of the geniuses that they lean into one of these phases. So I highly recommend that leaders, you can go click on the link in the notes and take the Working Genius. I guarantee you it will transform your meetings and make them very, very productive.
It makes a huge difference. And we did this at our parish, we've done this with Rebuilt, and it's incredible what happens when you understand your coworkers' working genius too. That helps you have patience and understanding when you can say, oh, okay, I can see why I might be a little frustrated. And that's going to lead nicely into the next question I want to ask. But if the person that you're working with, let's just say in a meeting and you're planning a project, and maybe you're finding yourself a little frustrated around like, oh my gosh, why doesn't he get this? Why isn't this coming through? Why is she asking that question? Then when you understand what their working genius is, then it's like, oh, I get it. Ideation maybe isn't where their strengths lie. Perhaps it's implementation for them. And so they're not sure what questions to be asking in this stage. It just helps so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, Melissa, it helps to understand yourself and
Yes.
what your geniuses are. And for example, I have tenacity. I like to get things done. So I'm in the implementation phase. And sometimes when we're in the ideation phase and the wonders or just creating ideas and thinking about what the possibilities are, I have to remember, let the ideation phase play out. And then I can just, it gives me just peace and comfort, and also allows me to contribute in a way, knowing where the team is at in that phase of the meeting. So it just helps the meeting run smoothly, and it engages people at all different levels, and it can be really fun.
Yes, definitely. Well, that kind of leads into this next question. And we know that no matter how great the team is, there's going to be conflict somewhere. So what strategies do you use to address and resolve conflicts within the team?
Okay, well, wow. Melissa, I'm sure you've heard leaders say that our people are our greatest asset. Without them, we would not achieve our goals. We hear that, we see that on company websites, parish websites. It's all about people, but we know that without people, we don't have our parish. We were not able to accomplish the mission and Great Commission and Great Commandment, but yet very few parishes do very little training and development. So when we say that people are our greatest asset and they are at the core of what we do, we need to really make people development, staff development, training a priority. So here's an example. So thriving organizations or even thriving parishes are learning how to provide ongoing training and development, and it is a major component of their strategy. An example is a company that I love. Many of you have probably not heard of them. It's called Barry Waymiller, and they're out of St. Louis. It's a global company that manufactures machines. It's kind of not a very cool company when you think about it. Who wants to think about machines? I mean, hard workers, God bless them, but it's just not something that you would think is going to be a great company. But anyway, they were founded in 1887. They've been around a long time. They're a $3 billion company with 12,000 employees. And over the last, 10 years, they've acquired over 80 companies. So what the CEO has done, Bob Chapman is his name, he's quoted as saying this: everyone, every person, every employee wants to do better. Trust them. Leaders are everywhere. Find them. People achieve good things, big and small, every day. Celebrate them. Some people wish things were different. Listen to them. Everybody matters. Show them. So when you think about a company that has a leader that has really set the standard for leadership development, staff development, that's someone that you want to emulate. So they have been able to create this training that they've been able to go to different companies and show them how to train and develop their staff. And it's very similar to what we are doing at Rebuild. We're working with parishes like you, and there's parishes that are wanting to learn and grow, and we've been able to take what we've learned at Nativity and being able to apply it as well. So parish leaders, you're in the same way, collaborating with parishes in your diocese, and that shared learning is so important, where as you're developing your staff and training yourself, you can help others as well. So one of the first things in training and developing your staff is to equip them with the tools necessary. And some of the ways that we do that, and this applies to every parish that's listening right now, make staff development a priority.
Yes.
Add it to your annual strategic plan. And that's what we've done. Staff development is a priority. We believe that people are at the heart of everything we do, and it's in our strategic plan. You can do that as well. We're committed to building this people-centric culture by training and developing our staff, volunteers, and our partner parishes. So here's a few ways to really create that culture of staff development and training. So number one, going back to what I mentioned earlier, meetings, weekly effective meetings, Melissa, effective meetings.
Yep.
So an example of an effective weekly staff meeting, it can be a short meeting. For example, our meeting is every week, it's 30 minutes, and everyone on the staff goes around and they share a win from the previous week. So it gives everyone an opportunity to see what, how God is moving in our parishes, in our team, and it gives a chance for every person to contribute. So we share a win, and then we talk about what's the priority for this week. So that's staff development. It creates an opportunity for people to hear what's happening across the organization, and then it also builds its team building. And people love that Monday meeting. So that's number one. And what we do with that meeting as well is we do a cascade, and that's something parish leaders we've talked about, and you can do as well. So when your core team meets, what are the most important things that you discuss? Cascade the communication, share it with the staff so everyone's informed what's going on. So that's a weekly staff meeting, Melissa. Another is we do staff development meetings. So parish leaders, this is a really fun one. So put in your calendar, whether it's once a week or every other week, is where you can, there's several different ways to create staff development. Over this last year, we've read 3 books. And they've been game changers. And so we've chosen these books. And what we've done is we've taken turns. So each person on the staff reads a few chapters. They give a presentation, and then we have a discussion. Look at what the development that happens there. The team members learn how to present in front of a team where there's trust. And then they're able to facilitate a conversation, and we're learning about what the topics are. I mean, we had 3 great books last week that I highly recommend. Melissa, I know I'm giving a lot of different links out there, but there's so many great resources on the different leadership topics out there. One of them was How to Work with Almost Anyone. That was
such a good one.
Talk about training and developing yourself. I mean, it was fun because we thought, okay, am I the person that people are talking about that have a hard time working with? So, so that was, it created a good conversation and skills and tools on how to work with almost anyone. Another game changer was unreasonable hospitality. It took our hospitality to a whole other level. And then the third one that we just finished was Know What You're For by Jeff Henderson. So that's another way. Annual staff retreats, Melissa, that's so important. The annual staff retreat is part of staff development. You take a look at the prior year that you just finished, you celebrate the wins, you set priorities for the new year, and you have some fun team building exercise. Another way is performance reviews, whatever the rhythm is, twice a year, once a year. And that's a way to go about doing that. Another is developing a culture of coaching. And, of course, one of our core offerings and services at Rebuild is coaching. We believe coaching is the optimum environment for transformation. So, create a coaching culture where you're offering to coach staff. It could be peer-to-peer, it could be top-down, it could be bottom-up, whatever the case may be. So that's the staff development, the training, talking about coaching. Our coaches, we have 35 coaches, and we come together twice a year in person so that we have a full day of training. And throughout the year, every other week, our coaching director, Kimberly, she puts together these coach training on very specific coaching skills where the coaches are meeting on a regular basis. So those are some ways, really, Melissa, when you think about how to go about ongoing training and development.
And you can see just in the way our coaches interact with their parishes and the results that their parishes are getting, that they're being poured into. And same with the rest of the staff. I mean, and I can tell you, beginning a training and development culture and a personal development culture for sure in a parish, it takes work, but it is so worth it. We know what it can be like working in a parish. It's busy. You're working nights, weekends, and holidays, but there's nothing like it. It's so rewarding. And when you can get that team off site, celebrate them, pour into them, help them to be reconnected with why they're doing what they're doing and the bigger purpose, it's incredible to see how rejuvenated they become when they get back into the office. It's just such a key point there, David. You've mentioned trust quite a few times already, and now I have to ask the question, how do you foster that trust, and not just trust, but communication on a leadership team?
Yeah, well, trust, as we've mentioned and talked about, is really the foundation that a healthy organization, a healthy parish, a healthy team is built on. And without trust, open communication is just not going to happen. So when team members trust one another, they're comfortable to be open and even exposed, to talk about their failures, their weaknesses, and their fears. And Lencioni talks about vulnerability-based trust. And that's really something that I think takes trust to another level, because it's really predicated on the simple, practical idea that people who aren't afraid to admit the truth about themselves, they're not going to engage in unhealthy behavior or waste anyone's time and energy. They're just not. And those are the people that are sitting back with their arms closed. And you know who those people are.
Yep.
And it's just like, what can we do to build trust and draw them in? So, I like this, open communication. It's accomplished when the team members are unafraid, because there's trust, vulnerability-based trust, to say things like, I was wrong, and take ownership for, either saying something or, maybe making a comment that was, not, I don't know, sometimes inappropriate. But then also, open communication happens when you're able to say, I made a mistake.
Yes.
Or I need help, or I'm sorry. And, as simple as that sounds, it's not that simple. But if you have that trust that's established, then it's easier to do that. So if team members, they can't bring themselves to readily speak these words, then they're not going to engage. So another way, Melissa, to foster trust is really, help with vulnerability. One of the ways to do that is the personal histories exercise. This is always a fun one, especially when you have team members. And this can be done in a retreat setting, or it can be done in a weekly staff meeting. So it's really simple. You go around their room and you ask everyone to answer 3 questions, and it gives a chance for people to get to know each other. And it's amazing what you learn about people. So it's, where did they grow up? Number 1. How many kids are in the family, and where are you in the order of your siblings? And then this is a fun one, and it really opens up the door to knowing people and how they answer this question. The question is, what was the most difficult or significant challenge of your childhood?
Wow.
That question really brings out some good conversation, and there's really heart connections that happen after that. So those are a couple of ways using that exercise of the history questions, and then also assessments. We talked about one of them already, but that's one of the great ways to build trust and learn how to communicate with your team. And the 3 assessments that we use is Myers-Briggs. Many of you parish leaders, you're familiar with them. Myers-Briggs, it's a personality assessment tool. It really categorizes you into 16 different personality types to help you better understand yourself and others. So Myers-Briggs is a great way to build trust, get to know each other. The second is the working genius, as we talked about before. It helps the individual team members really identify, like this, your natural talent and areas of enjoyment in work. Work should be fun, right? What's the saying?
Yes.
if you're doing what you love, you're not working. So that's the Working Genius help draws that out. And the third assessment, we've just started introducing at Rebuilt, and some of us use it and love it. And everyone has their favorite tools. There's the color code, but these are the three that I wanted to share with you, parish leaders. It's the DISC assessment. The DISC assessment gives the team members insights into your behavior and how you interact with others. So by understanding your own DISC profile and profiles of others, it really it improves communication, it helps you resolve conflict more effectively, and it enhances overall productivity. So those are some ways there, Melissa, to really foster trust and open communication.
Those are so good. And I just love how, you shared about vulnerability is an important part of that, and being honest and asking when you need help. And it's interesting how that both takes trust and builds trust as well. It's so good. Well, David, I know that you help to coach multiple parishes and that you've been a mentor to other coaches. I would love to hear a success story about building and developing a leadership team in one of the parishes that you've helped to coach.
Yeah, well, this is perfect timing, Melissa, because I just finished a parish parish on-site last month. And there's a common and classic story of parishes that are not growing that have a challenge in developing leadership teams. Many parishes don't have leadership teams. If they do have leadership teams, there's too many people. There's no structure around it. But let me I'll share briefly with this parish that I've been working with going on 2 years now. The pastor just came into the parish. So he's having to start from scratch. The parish was plateaued. The pastor that was there before was doing good things, but it's just, it wasn't growing. And the pastor really had a passion for wanting to implement some of the rebuilt model. And the first place he started with was the leadership anchor. He said, before I do anything, I need to build a leadership team and with them create our vision. Where do we see ourselves a year? What is our mission statement? And then how are we going to get there? So by doing that, he was able to set direction. He was able to have a clear plan, and then he was able to build a team around him. So as a result of putting the leadership team in place, he really decided to now make some really bold moves. We talk about bold moves at Rebuilt, and the pastor said, I'm going to raise the level of the weekend experience, and that's the second anchor. So he leaned into the leadership anchor, building a leadership culture, and the weekend experience, which is to create that exceptional weekend experience through a message series, through quality music, and then also unreasonable hospitality. So he started doing preaching a message series, and people started giving him feedback saying, Pastor, I just never heard the gospel presented that way, and people's lives were being transformed. More people were coming, and attendance started increasing, and there was just this momentum was happening just by creating a message series that was aligned to his strategic plan. So he did the work by laying the foundation with the vision and mission, and it had the strategic team. And then he made another bold move. And this is for you parish leaders, this is a big one. He changed the music. And the music is a big, bold move, and it created major conflict. Mm-hmm. But he felt that that God put on his heart to bring in quality music and even create variety around music. There's different types of music, different styles of music, but he brought in a trained professional musician, and the music program it's unbelievable. They're doing these worship nights. They call them glow nights, and once a week they just bring anyone from the community in the parish to just have like an open mic where let's just play music. If you have a musical gift, come and just play. And word on the street now is that there's live music at their parish, and people from around the city are starting to come. Even other churches, other pastors are coming.
That's so cool.
As a result of that one bold move. So there's a lot of momentum by just implementing those two anchors of developing a leadership team and to be able to, create this exceptional weekend experience. So I think that really could not have happened where he made those bold moves, especially in the music ministry and the weekend experience, if he did not have the support of a unified leadership team.
And David, well, first of all, I'm so inspired by that story. I love that. But to your point, everything rises and falls on leadership. And so none of this would have happened if he didn't have that support system in place, that leadership team in place to back him up and help make all of this happen. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about, as you're building this leadership team, let's talk about diversity, why you don't want to have all of the same type of person. And I have a feeling you're probably going to bring a little bit of the working genius into this one just because I know you. And so I'm thinking you've got some good nuggets for us on having an inclusive and diverse team.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I mean, any healthy team is going to have diversity and they're well-rounded, right? I mean, when you look at, as Melissa, you just mentioned, the working genius, when you take a look at your team and you have everyone take the working genius, you want to make sure that every area of those geniuses are filled, because every person's genius is important to the success and the health of the team. So parish leaders, whatever the tool, the assessment is, you want to know your people. You want to know, what their passions are, what their natural giftings are, and also what their frustrations are. What aren't they good at? It's really important to be able to know how well-rounded the team is. And the DISC assessment is another way to be able to really diversify your team in the area of behaviors and communication. I mean, we have a DISC wheel, so we've been able to put everyone on our team on the DISC wheel. And think about a wheel or a spoke that is lopsided. If the wheel has spokes only on 3/4 of the tire or the wheel, it's going to be lopsided. But if the wheel has spokes of everyone that represents and reflects every type of behavior and communication style, then you're well-rounded. So it's creating that awareness and just knowing your people and knowing where the gaps are. And culturally, depending on where your parish is located, sometimes it can be very difficult to find a diverse group of people. So you have to be creative and even really pray about, all right, God, we need people. I know that, it's important to have representation of all generations, because we learn, from multi-generations and different types of cultures and ethnic groups. And I think it's just an important, especially in this day and age, to learn from other cultures, from other age groups, and to be able to learn from other backgrounds. So this is, I think, one of the key missing ingredients that a lot of people in parishes don't pay attention to.
I agree. And when I think about how having a wheel like we have can help parishes out there, once they take some of these assessments and kind of plot everybody where they belong on the wheel, that will not only help take away some points of contention and frustration, but also builds empathy and helps you to understand your team even better. And then as you're planning projects, you can say, okay, well, I'm going to need these 2 people to help with this phase of the project. And I'm going to need these 3 to help with this one. And I'm going to need these 2 to help finish this up. It just helps everybody be more productive too. So it's just incredible what happens when you put some of these tools and resources into place.
Exactly. And it takes time to do that, and you have to be intentional. But the fruit that comes out of doing the work is just unbelievable.
I agree. Now, we're talking about effective leadership teams here. And here's a question I've got for you, David. How do you know if it's effective? How do you evaluate a leadership team to measure its effectiveness?
Yeah, this is an easy question to answer. We don't have to spend a lot of time, but it's really simple. I mean, it's, I'm going back to, there's a common theme here of meetings, right? If they can be small group meetings, large group meetings, it can be one-on-one meetings. It's just engaging with your team on a regular basis, asking them, how are they doing? Everyone has their set of goals that they're working on for the year, we break it down to quarterly, and then we break it down to monthly, we break it down to weekly. And then we like to use the green, yellow, red, the stoplight, some people call it. During our meetings, especially our strategic meeting, we'll look at our goals and we will evaluate the goals based on where the goals are in being accomplished. So the green really is been simplified, and this comes from Tom, our president, and his saying that his brother-in-law said, "Well, what does green mean? What is, if it's not green? Is it lime? What does yellow mean? Is it maybe orange?" I mean, so we've just simplified it, and you can come up with whatever definition for red, yellow, green, because there's sometimes it's not just black and white or red, yellow, green. It might be orange. It might be lime. So anyway, what we've come up with is green. When you have a goal that is green, or a project that's green, the plan is being implemented. It's moving forward. It's really simple. A yellow is, I have a plan, but maybe it's not moving forward. So let's slow down and let's make sure that that plan at least gets moving in the right direction, or maybe it's off course. Maybe we need to change that goal altogether. But it's just, okay, pay attention. And then red is, I don't have a plan. I don't know how I'm going to get this goal achieved. So really, that's the way to be able to, I mean, we have seen that to be very helpful to evaluate. And then also, again, those performance reviews and just the intentionality of meeting and asking questions and making sure that our team knows what the expectations are, what their goals are, and we're there to support them and to help them achieve them and hold them accountable to make sure that they have what they need to achieve them. So.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. I love that we use the red, yellow, green, and that's something that our parishes can do too. In fact, for our partner parishes, when we give them the partner parish playbook, or when we give them some of the workbooks they get in their courses, some of those have those evaluations where they can pick one of our strategic anchors and they can rate themselves how they're doing, red, yellow, and green. Yep. And I think you know this too, David, but that's also very, very popular in the corporate world. Yeah. In retail, we had that for red, yellow, green. If your store was green, you were doing everything right. If your store was yellow, you had some improvements. And if your store was red, watch out. It's on fire. There's a lot of work to be done.
It's a simple framework, right, to evaluate. It gives you a lens to look through, but then also gives you some intentionality so everyone knows where they're at in the progress of not only the team, but their goals as well.
Definitely. Well, David, here's a question that I want to talk about. What words of encouragement or advice would you have for parishes that are having struggles building a solid leadership team?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, first of all, leadership is not easy. So, I want to encourage you that, every day that we get to lead is an opportunity to serve others, right? I mean, I think there's so many great examples of leadership in God's word, right? I mean, there's just, one of my favorite leaders is Nehemiah. I mean, Nehemiah, he just had this desire to, when he heard about the walls around Jerusalem are broken, the first thing he did, he stopped, he wept, he cried, he prayed, he fasted, and then he took action. So when you think about you as a leader and you're struggling, I always go back to, okay, what has God called me as a leader to do? What is my unique value that I bring to the team? And I think it really does, I have a saying, it starts with you. Yes. And really what that means is you have to lead yourself first. So when your team is struggling, I'd like to say, okay, what is my role in the team dynamics? Why is the team struggling? What am I doing? I need to make sure I'm bringing strength to the team. I'm bringing encouragement to the team. I'm bringing accountability. What's missing? What does the team need? So it starts there. Well, it starts with leading yourself, and then from there you can start doing, and I put together just a simple steps that you can do. And the first thing, and we've already talked about it, so this is a great way to summarize today's conversation, is the first thing you want to do when you look at your team and you feel like it's just not being effective or we're struggling to be cohesive is go back to Jim Collins, the bus analogy. Do I have the right people on the bus, and are they in the right seat? Do they have a clear understanding of their role and responsibility? Me, as the leader, I want to set them up for success. So I'm going in asking questions to make sure that they have what they need. Number two, I want to make sure that the team, they're bought into the vision and mission. And not only they're bought in, but they understand what their role is in the vision and mission. So again, leaders, we're repeaters, we're communicators. We need to make sure that people in our team understand what the vision and mission, where are we going, how are we going to get there, and what's your role in the vision and mission. So number three, really, I would say that if you're struggling, one of the great tools, and I mentioned him all throughout today, is Lencioni has a great tool called the 5 dysfunctions of a team. And it's really a way to look at those 5 characteristics and evaluate, where are we? Are we lacking trust? Are we avoiding conflict? Is there a lack of commitment? Is there an inability to focus on results? So an assessment. Assess and evaluate, how is our team doing, where are the gaps, and then how do we fill those gaps. So really it's creating awareness and understanding, seeking to understand what those challenges are, where those gaps are, and then once you know where they are, then you can start working on them to build the cohesive team. So there you go. Those are three things I would start with immediately.
So good. And there are 3 things that anybody can do. Any leader can do. And David, I know you've got a lot of resources. Can you show us, before we begin, you showed me a stack of resources that you've got. Can you just, for those of you who are joining us on YouTube, I would love just, David, if you could share. David is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to leadership. But part of that is because David invests in himself and in his own personal development. So I know you've got a whole stack there, and we're going to list every title in the show notes. So don't worry, you don't have to write all this down. But can you just give us a quick show of what you've got there?
Absolutely. So another saying of leaders are readers, right? So I love reading books. This is my stack of leadership books here. I mentioned many of them here, but some of the leaders that I learned from, of course, Jim Collins, Pat Lencioni. I mentioned this one here. This is not a lot of people have heard of Bob Chapman, but this is the one from Barry Wehmiller, Everybody Matters. So yeah, there's just so many great books, and everyone has their favorites. For pastors, it's so exciting that we get to lead others. And, one of the sayings from Andy Stanley's is leadership is stewardship. We're called to be stewards of the people God has placed in our lives. So these are tools and that we can, draw upon to be able to sharpen our leadership and continue to be lifelong learners, which will help us become lifelong effective leaders.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Well, David, thank you so much. You have just poured into all of the leaders that are here with us today. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your knowledge and your wisdom.
Thank you, Melissa. It's great to be with you and great to be with all of you leaders as well. We believe in you. We are for you. And we look forward to hearing stories about how your leadership is transforming your life and your parish.
Absolutely. We want to hear those. And before we go, I want to share with you that we have a great free resource. In addition to all of those resources that David shared with us, we've got one just for you. And this is our leadership evaluation. If you go to rebuiltparish.com/leadership evaluation, or click on the link in the show notes, you'll be able to access this leadership evaluation that will help you and your team discern where you need to make some changes on the leadership team in your parish. And then we also give you a head start on making your action plan. So that's, once again, rebuiltparish.com/leadership evaluation. Thank you, David. And thank you to all of you who are tuning in. We are so grateful for you.